Hi, I'm attempting a video reply to Mike Winger's video about how people should not say that babies are born atheists. On the main premise of the video, which is not really why I'm filming this, I just think when people say babies are born atheists, they're attempting to illustrate that that a concept of a God is not inherent, it's not something we're born with, it's a cultural affectation, or it's something that is a learned behavior. It's pretty evident that many societies do develop some concept of God, many are contradictory of one another, and there are, at least arguably, some societies that have not developed one. It's an interesting argument, and I think it is a rational argument about where these concepts come from. But I do not think it is convincing, and I have not heard an argument that is convincing that we are born with an inherent concept of God. I understand there are people who believe that. I also don't think that saying babies are born atheists is a serious argument in terms of counter-apologetics. I've never met anybody or actually viewed anybody who use that as their sole argument against God. If they do, I think that's ill-advised. So I think he's a little bit off. I think the video basically tries to paint it as an act of counter-apologetics that is really, it's not at that level. As far as people being able to say it, sure, they can say it in context. It's not something that that I would use very seriously unless it was in the context of a discussion about where our concept of God comes from. Anyway, I hope that's a little bit clearer. During that discussion, the idea was brought up that's frequently brought up that atheism is also a positivist position that is based on dogma. That came up in the comments section. I objected to this because I think the use of the word dogma twists the argument all around. Atheism is the absence of dogma. Most people would agree. Using a definition of dogma wherein it comes from either an institutional set of assumptions or usually in a religious basis from revealed scripture. You can look up your own definitions in dictionaries. I used Merriam-Webster at that point. Atheism, to say atheism has dogma is kind of twisted. There is no pope of atheism. There is no scripture of atheism. There is no list of anything that atheists are required to believe. Atheists do frequently believe in evolution, but they don't have to. And the only thing that would make you a bad atheist in terms of your worldview and belief system would be to believe in God. To believe in God and then call yourself an atheist would be very confusing at best, probably a misuse of language. You would not offend any body of atheism. You would not be expelled or excommunicated from atheism. There is no such thing. So I hope I've made a point that the use of the word dogma in relation to atheism is strange. Where I suspect Mike was coming from was sort of an epistemological viewpoint where it can be argued that any position that we take at all is based on assumptions, and that ultimately, if we trace those back to enough levels, they are positions that we just have to accept. For example, if I believe that if I held an apple above me and let it go, it would fall to the ground. I don't have an apple, and I'm not dropping it now. I do believe that would happen based on all my previous experience and everything I've learned about gravity and my experience with gravity over my lifetime. However, am I just assuming that at some point? Yes, I am just assuming that. I am, in many cases with things I believe, just taking them because I've heard them from authorities or I've viewed them in personal experience. We all have to do that. But to equate non-belief or non-acceptance of an idea as equally faithful as a positive viewpoint, particularly of something as nebulous as religion, I think is a misuse of language. So it's a frequent argument, do atheists make knowledge statements? And my answer to that would be many of them do. Sometimes they don't. There is definitely, most people theists or atheists would agree there is strong atheism and weak atheism. Strong atheism would say there is no God, or it may, about a particular religion, say this God I do not believe in. That would be a statement. That would be a positive statement. That would be an assertion. That would be an evidence of strong atheism. The person who says that should be prepared to defend it somewhat. Weak atheism is just a failure to believe. Myself, about some gods, as I suspect Mike Winger is, and virtually every believer I've ever met, reject some gods. They reject some scripture. They don't believe. If you are a devout Christian, you are generally not accepting of the revealed nature of the Quran and all the doctrine of the Quran and believe in Allah. You generally don't believe in Ganesha and Krishna. You generally don't believe in Ahura Mazda or Baal Hadad or Thor or Odin or, all the others. And neither do I. So we could agree on those, I hope. There are many, many other religions, some of which I've heard of and I don't believe, and probably many, many I've never heard of and I'm totally ignorant of, and by default I don't believe in them either. On the latter group, what would I be other than a weak atheist? I make no positive statement about them. I'm not even aware of what I don't necessarily believe in. If I were to learn more about one of those belief systems, perhaps it would make total sense to me and I would believe in it, but I don't by default now. That would be weak atheism. Strong atheism is, well, I just explained what it was. So, to say one is an atheist and say no more is not necessarily a statement of faith. Many atheists, probably most, make at least some knowledge statements that would have to be defended, but not all. I hope this makes some sense. When we get into these arguments, we use words like faith and twist them around. We use the word belief. So, you could say, I believe in Bigfoot, or I believe in gravity, or I believe Journey was the best arena rock band of the 80s, or I believe my girlfriend is the most beautiful woman in the world, or I believe I'll have a ham sandwich for lunch, or I believe 2 + 2 = 4. All those are statements about belief, but what we're doing is we're exposing the fact that language is an approximation, and that belief and faith don't mean the same thing about every single statement. In religion, particularly in Christianity, the faithful of that religion elevate faith to a higher level. And when they're talking about faith in God and giving themselves over to God and believing with their whole heart in God, they're talking about a different thing than when somebody says, I believe in gravity. or when they say, I fail to believe in Bigfoot. My failure to believe in Bigfoot is due to what I perceive, from what I've heard, insufficient evidence to believe in Bigfoot. If I were to see evidence of Bigfoot, if somebody were to capture a Bigfoot or find a body of a Bigfoot and do DNA testing on it, first of all, what would we compare it to? Because we don't have like a DNA standard for Bigfoot. But if we were to find a creature that looked exactly like what most people describe Bigfoot, I would acknowledge, yeah, wow, I didn't really believe because I thought it was too unlikely that we hadn't found a Bigfoot so far for it to exist, but here it is, I was wrong. It's plausible there could be some large primate in North America. There are primates all over the rest of the world. I find it unlikely that we've never found one in a country that's populated, but, perhaps Bigfoot is an incredibly rare, nearly endangered species. But my non-belief in Bigfoot is not the same kind of knowledge statement as, God created the world in 6 literal days through the power of His word, or through magic. That's a different kind of knowledge statement. I hope that's evident. Also, I'd like to give a word about tone. I like Mike Winger, and I like his tone quite a bit. I think his video reflects that he's an interesting person, a smart person, and is interested in a logical debate. That is somewhat rare on YouTube. And so I hope that my reply has also been in that spirit. I encourage active and fruitful and non-insulting dialogue about this, and I hope this video has contributed to it. Thanks.